In July 2013, a police chase led 3 friends deep into the woods of rural Oklahoma, but only one made it out. The other 2 vanished after a series of desperate calls for help, never to be seen again. As days turned into years, the tiny town of just over 1,000 was consumed by quiet murmurs of corruption, fear, and a possible cover-up. The mystery of what happened that night still hangs heavy as the search for truth remains clouded by unanswered questions and dark local secrets. Welcome to Without a Trace. I'm your host, Jalyn. Every file holds a mystery. Every story deserves to be heard. This is Molly Miller and Colt Haynes' story. Molly Miller was born on April 30th, 1996 in Wilson, Oklahoma. She grew up living with her mother, Melissa, but often stayed with her grandparents, who lived just a few blocks away. She was a member of the Chickasaw Nation, the 12th largest indigenous nation in the United States, with headquarters in Ada, Oklahoma. Molly was feisty. She wanted to do things her way and always spoke her mind, regardless of the consequences. She attended a local vocational high school and had plans to attend nursing school after graduation. She excelled at every sport she tried. She particularly enjoyed softball and liked showing off her trophies to anyone who visited. Molly cared deeply for her grandparents, and when her grandmother passed away, she took it extremely hard. It was around this time when people who knew Molly noticed her starting to change. She began hanging out with a different crowd, people who were heavy into drugs. Molly fell in deeper with this group and began to dabble in drugs herself. In the summer of 2013, just before her junior year of high school, Molly met Colt Haynes. Colt was born on April 28, 1992. Not much is known about his childhood. On June 28, 2013, Molly got into a fight with her mother and left to stay at the house of a man named Josh Davis. It is believed this is when Molly met Colt. For the next week or so, Molly spent the night at various friends' houses, partying and using drugs. On July 5th, 2 days before the chase, Molly, Colt, and at least 2 other guys were caught on surveillance video in the parking lot of a nearby Wilson casino while a drug deal was taking place. On July 6th, 2 of the friends who'd gone searching for Molly and Colt picked the 2 of them up from Josh Davis's house, and they went to another friend's house by the name of Rob. Rob is a cousin of James Con Nip, who is known to the locals by Con for his constant run-ins with law enforcement. This is likely when Con, Colt, and Molly all crossed paths. Con and Colt had a spotty history and were definitely not friends. Katie, who was the mother of Colt's son, dated Con before Colt, and there were reportedly a history of abuse on Con's side. When Katie found out that Colt and Con had hung out, she said it was very strange, and the only reason that they would be hanging out willingly with each other was because of drugs. Witnesses said that Colt and Josh were dealing and using drugs. Colt told Josh that Con told him that if they took their drugs over to his people, they would double their money. At that time, Colt and Josh had at least $1,800 worth of drugs on them. On the morning of July 7th, Con picked up Molly and Colt and took them to Rob's house. They left Molly there, which was confirmed by phone records of her calling both Colt and Con to have them come pick her up. An unconfirmed tip reported that Rob's wife woke up and found Molly and Rob doing drugs in the kitchen. His wife, who was trying to get sober, was upset and made Molly leave. On July 7th, around 10:30 p.m., Molly was picked up by Colt and Con. After picking up Molly, Con drove her and Colt to a nearby convenience store to grab beer. As they left the store, Con saw a Wilson police cruiser parked in a lot across the street. Con gunned it as he left the parking lot, flying down Main Street going at least 80 miles per hour. The officer didn't budge, as he knew it was Con and he didn't want to deal with him again. However, Con, looking for trouble, turned his car around and drove into the parking lot, where he proceeded to do a donut around the cruiser, spraying gravel all over the officer's car. The officer turned on his lights and began pursuing Khan, who, of course, began leading the officer on a high-speed chase down Highway 76 in Carter County. The pursuing officer called in for backup, explaining he was following Khan, who, at this point, had turned off his headlights, drove in the wrong lane of traffic, and reached speeds of up to 120 miles per hour in his attempt to elude officers. Khan's Honda Accord began heading towards Long Hollow Road in Oswalt, going through Carter County and entering Love County. Other officers had begun heading towards the western side of the county to block the road when Love County Sheriff Joe Russell came on the radio and instructed the officers to call off the pursuit. Reluctantly, the officers pulled back, while the Honda Accord continued towards the area of Long Hollow Road, which was a dead-end road. Officers said at the time they didn't know that Molly and Colt were in the vehicle with Khan. Sometime after police lost sight of the vehicle, it apparently crashed through a fence in a rough terrain area of western Love County, not far from where the pursuit officially ended. At approximately 12:50 a.m., Molly dialed 911, but nothing was said, and after 5 seconds, the call ended. When the operator tried calling back, no one answered. Moments later, more than a dozen calls to 911 were made, coming in every other minute, all dropped calls. Molly and Colt attempted to make several phone calls to friends within the early hours of July 8, 2013. Around 3 a.m., one of Colt's calls got through. He told his friend that he and Molly were lost and they needed water and a ride. Not knowing exactly where he was, Colt explained that he climbed a tree to find a road but fell and he broke his ankle. He told the friends his bone was sticking out and he was coughing up blood. 4 of Colt's friends, Benita, Devin, Colby, and Rob, went to look for Colt and Molly on four-wheelers, searching around the area of Long Hollow Road, but they couldn't find them. After searching for them for a while and being unable to see anything in the dark, the friends decided to go home and wait for the sun to come up. Around 9 a.m., the 4 friends began the search for Molly and Colt once again. They were able to get Colt on the phone, who told them to go to Khan's house because he would tell them exactly where he left them. When the group arrived at the Nip home, several family members met them outside, including Khan. Khan told them that he had no idea where Colt and Molly were, stating that after he parked the car, Molly and Colt went off in one direction into the woods while he went the other way. The friends handed their phone to Khan with Colt on the phone. They could hear Colt screaming over the line at Khan, saying that he knew where they were and he better come get them. Khan continued to deny knowing where they were. His aunt told the group that they were trespassing and needed to leave the property. At 9:39 a.m., Molly's phone went dead. Shortly after, at 9:56 a.m., Colt's phone went dead as well. No further activity was ever detected on either cell phone, and Colt and Molly haven't been seen or heard from since. With no car, no Colt, no Molly, and no answers, Colt's friends reached out to the Love County Sheriff for help, but Joe Russell refused to take the report, saying it wasn't his problem. Around the same time, Melissa, Molly's mother, went to the Wilson Police Department to file a runaway report on her daughter. She told them that Molly had run away before, but she'd always come back after a day or two. This time, it had been more than a week since she'd seen Molly. Melissa also got in touch with the Love County Sheriff's Department to report Molly missing. As the dispatcher was taking the report, she told Sheriff Joe Russell that Molly's mother was on the phone, trying to file a missing persons report on Molly. Russell also refused to take the report. Paula Fielder, Molly's cousin, contacted Texas EQ Search, a nonprofit organization that helps with the search and recovery of missing persons. Using their resources, Molly and Colt's friends and families conducted a widespread search of the area where the two were last known to be, as well as the surrounding areas. They looked in ditches, wells, ravines, and under bridges, but no signs of Molly or Colt were found. 2 weeks after Molly and Colt vanished, the Honda that Khan was driving was found wrecked in a field near the entrance to Long Hollow Road. Long Hollow Road leads to Khan's grandparents' home, where he was staying at the time. The vehicle was roughly 1,500 feet from the NIP's property line. The property is settled on several acres of land, which was never searched. The Honda was registered to Sabrina Graham. Khan's girlfriend, who had reported the vehicle stolen the night of the police chase. She explained that she let Khan borrow the vehicle for the day, and he brought the car back to her about 30 minutes before the police chase began. When she woke up the next morning, the vehicle was gone. In January of 2014, Khan was in yet another police chase, this time with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. He caused an officer to go airborne in his vehicle and hit a tree. Khan was arrested and charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, eluding the police, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison and released in 2018 after serving just 4 years of his sentence. Khan's girlfriend, Sabrina, was also arrested and charged with making a false insurance claim and filing a false police report when she claimed her vehicle was stolen on July 8, 2013. She pled guilty and was given a 3-year sentence. Khan and Sabrina have not been cooperative with the police investigation. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation officially took over the case in 2014, but weren't making any progress. They said almost every lead had come to a dead end. Then, 8 months after Molly and Colt's disappearances, a 911 call was accidentally made by Khan's uncle, Colby Barrick. You know, you're fucking mad. You know, you're fucking tired. Fucking Moxie Lake, a buck knife, Molly Miller. They shot him in the mouth, right there. I could put my finger all the way through it. The 911 dispatcher then heard what sounded like water splashing and 2 gunshots. The phone that the call came from pinged near Moxley Lake, just north of Long Hollow Road. Officers were dispatched to the area, including Sheriff Joe Russell. 3 men were found on the property, all felons, and all with firearms. They said that they were just fishing. All 3 were ticketed for trespassing and let go. Moxley Lake was eventually searched unofficially by Paula, along with several others, under the supervision of a retired FBI agent. Nothing was found. In 2018, Barrick, the cousin who was believed to be the one who made the accidental 911 call, was arrested on unrelated firearm charges and sentenced to 46 months in prison. Reportedly, he also told law enforcement while in custody that Molly and Colt's bodies were in the pond. Then, in July of 2016, Love County Sheriff Joe Russell was indicted on several charges, including 2 counts of corruption in office and 2 counts of habitual or willful neglect of duty following an FBI investigation. He has been accused of letting his son, Willie Russell, who has previously been convicted of dealing meth, sell meth out of the house. Not only that, but Joe allowed Willie to use his sheriff's vehicle, which is equipped with lights and a police scanner, to deal meth out of. There are even allegations of the sheriff bringing young girls in bikinis back to his house, supplying them with drugs and getting them to strip. He was reported to have allegedly allowed a fugitive, Sarah Bomberg, to stay at his house for a couple of weeks, even though she had 4 warrants out for her arrest. Sarah was dating Willie at the time. Sarah told investigators that Willie told her, quote, "You've got warrants, and as long as you're here dating me, you're not going to get arrested." Shortly after that, Sarah broke up with the sheriff's son and moved in with someone else. She was arrested and taken to jail 3 days later. Lastly, the most surprising allegation of all, Joe was accused of allowing his nephew, James Con Nip, to meet with family members unsupervised in a room with evidence. Yeah, you heard that right. Sheriff Joe Russell is the uncle of the town's nuisance, Con. Pieces of the puzzle were starting to click together. Investigators were starting to see why Russell didn't take Molly's disappearance seriously and why he refused to take reports from Molly's mother and Colt's friends. Molly and Colt's family members claimed Russell was trying to cover Con's tracks, a theory that was further corroborated when a news channel spoke with Russell briefly over the phone. Before hanging up, Russell said that he knows the truth and God knows the truth. Later, Molly's cousin Paula told Con she knew Molly was deceased and that she knew something bad happened to her. She told him that she needed him to tell her where Molly was, and Con responded by tearing up and saying he didn't want to go to jail. Some people speculate that after becoming lost in the woods, Colt and Molly died of exposure. July in Oklahoma would bring temperatures into the 90s and 100s, and without food or water, it would become very dangerous. Colt told his friends that he'd broken his leg, and it was possible that he would have been unable to move around much. People who knew Molly said she was very familiar with the area, and even though she likely wouldn't have wanted to leave Colt, she could have made it to a nearby road. This ties in with another theory that Molly did go for help and was abducted and murdered by someone who gave her a ride. Colt, still injured and in the woods, could have died by exposure. But both of these theories present one problem. Where are their remains? The most widely discussed and believed theory involves foul play. Many people say that there are several locals who know what happened and who were involved, but are too scared to say anything, especially considering that one of the people involved has significant pull with the law enforcement. Thank you for listening to Without a Trace with your host, Jolynn. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the disappearances of Molly Miller and Colt Haynes. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe and follow Without a Trace on social media. Join me next week as I dive into another case.